because it's lots of information. So we, as I said, we are going to be looking at baby lock tonight, and that's you know, if you don't have a baby lock, you're welcome to stay. I think there's interesting information in it regardless. It doesn't matter what baby lock you have as long as it's got automatic threading. It's going to be pretty much identical to the Triumph. It may be you just have the Serger side, or it may be you have the Euphoria. I'm going to do a separate one on the Euphoria because it is a bit different. I'm going to do the Bernina L890 next, and off we go. So stay with me. So what I want to talk about is the Triumph. Right, and I'm making my slides bigger because some of you said you had trouble seeing them, but so hopefully this will work better. Right, so this is the Baby Lock Triumph, and it is a combo machine. So what does that mean? It means it's combined serger and cover stitch machine. So on the bottom left there, you'll see the Acclaim, I think. And then if you add to that the Euphoria, you're going to end up with the Triumph. In other words, the Triumph does cover stitch and it does serger stitches, and it does a combination of the both. Okay. So colors, if you look at the Triumph, you'll find some letters are in a sort of gray green and some letters are in a gold. If gold color, if it's gold, it means it's for the cover and chain stitch. Okay, just a small side. So with this machine, we have two tables because we need two tables. When we're using the knife, we use the knife table, okay, and that covers the knife. And then when we use the cover stitch side of the machine, we use the cover table. And the great thing about the cover table is it hides that big hole where there is when you're using the knife table. And that's because generally when you're doing cover stitch, you want your fabric to be to the right of the needle. Most of the time, well, all the time, when you're using the knife table, your fabric mustn't go any further than the knife. The knife cuts off the excess, so it looks after it for you. So we have snap-on feet on this machine, and we have a little button at the back of the foot. So you lift your foot, you press the button at the back of the foot. It's about an inch up from the very bottom, and the foot will fall off, and you slide it out to the left. Okay, I'm going to include that in threading, and I'm going to say that there's not much about threading here. This is just about identifying all the parts of this machine. So here we have the needles, and because it's a combo machine, it actually has 5 needles. Okay, so the 3 on the left, and you can see I put a sticky note behind it so you can see the needles. The 3 on the left are what we call the chain needles, and they do all the chain and cover stitch. And they're called C1, C2, and C3 more commonly. And you'll see on the right, there's 2 needles that are actually set back, and these are the serger needles. And we generally call them O1 and O2, O1 being the left and O2 being the right. I like to think of them more as the wide needle and the narrow needle. And also you can see in this picture, so I will mention it, the knife. The knife is up in this picture and there's a blue arrow going to it, showing the front of the knife. Some people have trouble seeing exactly where the knife is, and that's where it should be. So if we look, and I have actually got my machine out, but I don't think you necessarily need to see what I'm doing. I think I'll just keep going on the slideshow. Inside on the left, the center front, you'll find 3 dials. Now the top right one is the stitch width dial. And if you look at it, it actually has 2 sets of numbers, which some could consider confusing. But the reason for it is just it measures the number measures the distance from the left needle to the right needle. And actually, I'm going to just show you something on that because I think it makes it easier to understand. It's not very big there, but we'll manage. But if you move this top needle, you will find the only thing that happens is that the knife moves. Okay, so it doesn't make a huge difference to the width. What you do when you're talking about width is you use the left needle. That will give you a wide stitch. The right needle will give you a narrow stitch. Okay, so below that, there's a blue arrow going to it. It's the knob in the middle. That is the knife. And you can engage the knife or disengage the knife. If I'm using serger stitches, I nearly always have the knife up, even if I'm working on a fold, because it just makes it more exciting. Okay, and if I'm going to put it down, like when I'm using cover and chain stitch, I'm just going to turn that knob. And sometimes it can be a bit stiff, but it needs to turn. One side says, I think I've got another slide on that, so I'll keep with that. And then the bottom dial is the stitch length dial. Okay, it is the stitch length dial. It's the biggest of the knobs, and it has two sets of the same numbers. But if you look at that picture, you'll see one says standard. That's what you're going to use it on most of the time, the standard numbers. And the words underneath say rolled, what do they say? Rolled hem. Okay, so you're going to use the rolled numbers only when you do a rolled hem. And all it actually does is it moves the stitch finger automatically for you, which is something you have to do with rolled hem. So most of the time you're going to be working with the standard numbers. So here's the cutting blade. I've got a better picture of it. And you can see on the left, it doesn't say anything. I wish it said up, because when it's blank like that, the knife is up. And if you look on the right, it says lock. And what that refers to is you have locked your knife down. So let's look at the upper looper positioning knob, because it often gives people a problem because they either forget they've engaged it or they disengage it and forget to turn the flywheel. So let's just talk about that for a minute. It's in the center of your machine and you will have to open the doors to find it. But you will see that it has a knob that says down and up. And when it's down, you will likely, in fact, you will definitely be doing cover and chain stitch. Okay, that's the only time you put the upper looper down, is when you're doing cover and chain. When you're doing a serger stitch, you have to have that knob up, okay, because it brings up the upper looper. And without the upper looper, you won't get a stitch on any serger stitch. So the thing is that people often do cover and chain, and then they go to thread their machine up and they turn it to up. And let me show you if I can just get this screen bigger. No. What they do is they put the knife up, but they forget to turn the hand wheel. It actually only goes up. See, I'm locking it down, and it only goes up. Nothing happens. It didn't move. It only goes up when you turn the hand wheel. And the same can be said of the knife. If you it was locked down and you turn it up, it will actually only go up when you turn the hand wheel. So just something to remember. Just a little thing to remember to add to it all. Right, the subsidiary looper two-thread converter. This is just a little bit of wire that's in the machine. And if you look at the picture on the left, it's not engaged. Okay, when you look at your threading charts, it will say subsidiary looper engaged, not engaged. And the only time you use it is if you're using two threads. So that would be two-thread flat lock stitch. Only time you're going to use it. So what you're going to do, if you look in that left-hand picture, there's a little hook on the very end, and it flips over and it goes into the eye of the upper looper. And all it does is it fools the machine into thinking there's thread in there when there isn't. Okay, so it's nothing complicated, but if you have it engaged, you will likely not be able to thread your upper looper because the point will be blocking it. So just one of those things to watch out for. So let's look at the left end of the machine. The left end of the machine, there are 3 controls. Now, if you don't have the Triumph, perhaps have the Acclaim, you won't have the threading guide because you don't have automatic threading. But and you don't have chain needle tensions either. But you will have the pressure foot control. In fact, I'm not, let me double check where it is on the Ovation because I can't quite remember. I think it is here. But if you look at it, and it is on the Euphoria on the left end too. But if you look at it, it is a dial. And I always get confused with this dial because I'm talking about the dial in the middle, the one in the middle of the picture, which has the purple arrow going to it. And it is the one that controls your foot pressure. So if you're sewing something super thick, you might want to reduce the amount of pressure in the foot. Or if you're sewing something very fine, like a silk, you might want to increase it. It doesn't have any numbers on it, and I always find it confusing when things don't have numbers, but just know that you turn it clockwise for less pressure and anti-clockwise for more pressure. And I'm still confused with that statement. But I do know that when it's at the lowest point, when it's at the very lowest point on the dial, it won't go any further, then that is the least pressure, okay? And then when I turn it anti-clockwise, it will go to the highest. But there is actually an arrow on there so you can see where you're at. So the other things there are the top right there. This is on the left side of the machine, top right of the left side of the machine. There is a dial which is for chain needle tensions, because people often think that the Triumph has automatic tensions on chain and cover, but it doesn't. Okay, you have control over those needle tensions, just as you have control over the chain looper tension. Okay, and on the Triumph, this bottom right lever, which you can just see, which is the bottom red arrow, that is just the threading mechanism that you pull down to thread your needles. It has automatic threading, and you pull down this lever and it brings it down. But remember, you always have to have your tubes shut when you do that. Right, let's look at the right end of the machine. The right end of the machine, in the case of the Triumph, we have the foot control that raises the foot, lowers the foot. On the Ovation, that's at the back of the machine. The next thing we have going down is, it's very small, but do you see there's a little silver piece there? And people always feel they should be using it. Let me just tell you now, because we're doing all of the controls. This is the chain looper bypass. The only time I have ever used it is when I'm doing shearing and I put elastic in. If I put it through the chain looper itself, I find it tightens too much. So I just miss out on the chain looper and I go through that silver piece and then down into the chain looper hole. Okay, so that's all that's for. And I bet few of you use it. As I say, I've only ever used it when I've been doing shearing elastic. So the next one down is the ABCD stitch selector. Okay, and A is for wide stitches when you're using the left needle. B is for narrower stitches when you're using the right needle. C is narrow stitches that meet on the edge, like 3-thread narrow. That would be a classic one. The threads meet right on the very edge. But if you want the thread to roll over, as in a rolled hem, you're going to use D for delta. Okay. So I also want to picture the flywheel there. And I want to tell you that you always need to turn it towards you. It raises the needles, it closes the tubes, it raises the knife and the upper looper. Okay, so you need to know where that is and you need to use it. Okay, it's easy to think that you don't have to touch it, but it brings up the needles, it closes the tubes after you've gone to threading, it raises the knife, and it raises the upper looper if you've had it down. So let's look at the right front side. So here we have the wave. So this machine has wave stitch, so does the Evolution, so does the Accolade, so does the Acclaim. And you will have this lever. It's wave, and then when it's pushed down, it's on regular overlock. If you sew an overlock stitch while you're on wave, you will know it because it comes out in the wave pattern. On the right of that, you see that dial actually has gold numbers on it. That's because it's cover stitch only. And it is the tension, the upper looper tension for the chain looper. Sorry, I'll say that again, not upper looper. It's the chain looper tension. Okay, it's going to alter the tension on your chain looper when you're doing chain stitch. So that would be the threads that are underneath. Okay. Differential feed, the best thing about these machines, differential feed. So when you close your machine up and you look to the right, you will see this site on all the machines, on all the baby lock machines. So it goes from 0.6 all the way up to 2. You're generally going to have it on N for normal. If I'm doing a knit, I'm going to have it on at least 1.3. If I'm gathering, I'm going to have it on 2. And if I'm doing a rolled hem, I'm likely to move it down to 0.6. Okay, that's going to stretch it out and make my... Sometimes when you do a rolled hem, it tightens up the edge of the fabric. So I put it on 0.6. And how it works is you have 2 sets of feed dogs. The front ones move faster than the back ones, or slower than the back ones, depending on whether you're on 0.6 or 2. Okay, it will only gather a thin piece of fabric, single piece of fabric, nothing more than that. But it's a very important tool of the serger. Right, we're going to look inside front right. Okay, now there you have your 3 holes where you're going to put your upper looper thread, lower looper thread, and chain looper thread. Okay, and you're going to see there is a very important lever there called, and it says on it, serging and threading. When you're just doing regular serging, you have it on serging. When you're preparing to thread, you put it on threading. Now, when you turn this to threading, you still have work to do. When you turn the knob to threading, it doesn't close your tubes, it just prepares your tubes. You then have to move your flywheel towards you to actually shut the tubes. And when you want to go back to serging and you go to serging, it will automatically open your tubes. Oh, and I missed the button. So the button is the push to thread loopers. And once you have the thread situated just in the hole there, you are going to hit that button and it's going to push air through and take your thread through. The biggest problem I have with beginners is that you don't put enough thread through. You have to put a load of thread through for it to go all the way through the machine and out through the upper looper. And somebody said the other day that it needs to be touching your tummy. Okay, and I thought that was a really good description. So you're going to take your thread, you're going to make sure you have enough to touch your tummy, and then you're going to put it in the little holes and hit the push to thread button. If it doesn't come through, you probably haven't given it enough thread. So on the top of the machine, you'll see 4 slots. Okay, now I've got them labeled as to which ones they are, but understand that sometimes with threading, we do different things. Okay, sometimes we'll move those threads about and put them in other slots. But basically, the lower looper is on the right, the upper looper is right next to it. The O2 needle, which is the right needle, is the next slot, and the last slot is the O1 left needle slot. So cover and chain tension, needle tension slots, they are on the left of the machine. There are 3 of them, chain needle 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and there is a threading pattern, and we will do threading in a separate video. So let's talk about the front left. So on the Triumph, and this is not on the other machines because you don't have automatic needle threading on the other machines, but on the Triumph we have a lever, that top left, that says chain and cover and overlock. And the only thing it does is if you have it on overlock, it will suck the air through the overlock needles, O1 and O2. If you have it on chain and cover, it will suck the air through those three needles so that you can thread your needles. Nothing more than that. And the push to thread, again, it's only on the automatic threading on the Triumph, and that says push to thread needles. So I will just tell you, I'm not going to demo it, but we will cover it in threading. You're going to make sure your tubes are shut. That's the all important thing when you use the automatic threader. You are then going to pull down the needle threader, which I have pictured on the right. It's on the left end. If your tubes are shut, you can pull it down and it will situate itself behind the needles. You're then going to take your thread and you are going to cut the end nice and sharp, and you're going to put it up towards the needle you're threading. So say it is the O1 Serger needle. You're going to make sure that your lever is on overlock. You're going to start that engine. I always say that. Push the thread, push the thread needles, push that, and it makes a noise. And you hold the thread towards the needle. It sucks it in. It just sits there. And then once you know it's there, you just slowly push up that lever where the threading guide is, or where the thread arm that comes down is, and it will pull the thread through. And I will cover that in threading, but it's good to know what all those things are and what they do. Right, so I have my online Serger Club starting April 2024. First one's April the 15th. There are 6 lessons. It's the third Monday of every month. It's 2 p.m. Eastern time to 4 p.m. I'm sure we'll overrun some days. It's for 6 months and it will run in a dedicated Facebook group. And I've chosen that particularly. I know not everybody does Facebook, but this is the advantage. I can put everything in there. It sits in there. You can go back. You can watch it again if you miss it, or you can watch it to make your project. It might be you just want to see me demo and you want to go back and do a project. It's not just going to be project orientated. There's going to be information about stitches. We're going to look at stitches. We're going to look at techniques, and I will feature a bit of cover and chain. If we're using it in a project and you don't have that machine, I will give you some other options too, always other options. And the idea is just to get you moving, just to get you committing to learning, coming, once a month and committing to learning. So if you're interested in that, I think it's 120 for 6 classes. You will find it on my website, debcunhamstudio.com, and it's called Serger Club, and it's under online classes. Is the Serger Club only for the Triumph? No, there's going to be techniques, there's going to be some things. I'm going to mainly demo on the Triumph, but I might demo on up my Bernina L890 also. I know there's people with the L890 signed up to do it. A lot of it's going to be technique. If you have the Celebrate, I've already done a really good class on the Celebrate on my Teachable side, but that if you've done that, then you'll be well prepared for coming into doing this class. It is, if you're a beginner, I want you to be engaged and to understand it and to progress. If you're more experienced, I will be giving some ideas and options for doing different things that I think maybe the more experienced sergers might like to do. So I'm trying to tailor it for everybody. That makes me nervous, but I think I can do it. So, okay, so I think that is all about Serger Club. It doesn't start till the 15th of April. And I do have one online class on the bird bag, April the 20th and 21st. So that's the Saturday and Sunday after the Serger Club. And it's a fun project. It can be done on any serger. Is Acclaim good for the Serger Club? Acclaim's perfect for the Serger Club, yeah. Will this info be different than your Serger 1, 2, and 3? I'm going to come out the slideshow now. Will it be different? Yes, I mean, there's only so many things I can say about a serger. It's whether you want to participate in committing to it, whether you want to refresh and relearn. We'll be doing some simple projects. Um, it's it's different in that it's just I may not cover absolutely everything in one and two, but I will certainly cover an awful lot. I may well cover things I haven't covered in Serger Sanity 1, 2, and 3. It's this is a fruit cake, that was a lemon cake. I don't know how to really describe that. I always have something on third Monday, so I'm correct. This is recorded. Yes, sorry. Yes, absolutely. It is recorded. Am I still doing lives on Mondays? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. But these are half-hour lives. I'm trying to, with the club, I'm trying to create a want to learn, a want to commit, a want to enjoy, a want to have fun, and to keep it running. I think with the lives, it's very easy for you to come in and sit and watch me and go, "Oh, that was good," and then not to actually do something on your searcher. Whereas I feel with the club, it's an easier way. It's 2 hours, may run over. It's more of a commitment. It's more of a learn, and I will be watching their progress. So there's no missing it. Hey, Missy, I haven't seen you for ages. I miss you too. I must message you. Hope you're well. So that was Missy Billingsley, dear friend of mine, great teacher too. Say too, but she is also a great teacher. So yeah, if somebody said they're having surgeries, they don't really feel they can surge. Um, I think with Serger Club, it's going to how you decide to work with it is entirely your choice. But my thought is it's going to be more of a demo. We will chat. You will be able to ask questions always. And when I do the projects, I'm not going to stop and wait like I do when I sometimes do an online class. I'm going to go through it because you can rerun and do the projects. And I don't think it's the worst idea. They're simple projects, so they're not going to take forever. I don't think it hurts to watch them. Now, if you're so super, efficient and you want to, so of course you can. You can do whatever you like. I can't see what you're doing. But yes, so it will work slightly differently to my regular online. So yes, so it's nice to see Missy, and I have a triumph and never use it. You are who I'm trying to reach. All of you people that say I've never got it out the box or I barely use it. It was interesting because I was at Daytona the other week and I had some people come in that hadn't used their surges and things. And there was one lady and she never thought to use a serger, and she started using it. The first day she thought, well, it's not, yeah, I don't need one. And the second and third day, she was so into the serger, and I have seen her doing so many projects. I can see what she buys off my website for patterns and things. And she's obviously really embraced it. And I think it's that commitment of actually sitting down and doing some stuff, actually sitting down and using it. It builds your confidence. You learn what you can use it for. You have your own ideas of when you can use it. And it just builds on all that. And that's why I'm keen to do the club. I feel I do go to class. I love people loving the searcher. I love it when they get what it can do. But so many of you aren't getting that. You you're not getting the enjoyment that I get, and I want to make sure that you get a chance to. If you don't like it, fair enough. But I'm sure most of you would just embrace it and love it. And the more you use it, the easier it gets. And it's not finicky. Once you've learned. So yes, the braided handles, you can use 3-thread overlock, or you can actually use a rolled hem. And the reason I say that is because if you're using a very thick cording, a 3-thread overlock wide is too wide, so you need to use a narrow stitch. So when is the big bag class. It is, I can't remember now. Let me have a look. I've got it written down. Not to say the dates would be right. Somebody said I put 1824 in for the Serger Club rather than 2024. Of course, I absolutely believe them. You know me, I could do that quite easily. The bed bag is April the 20th and 21st, 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. So actually the Saturday after the Serger Club. So I shall make sure make sure I cover some of those stitches in the Serger Club that make it more fun. Can you show the Ahoy bag next to the bird bag? Ah, there's the bird bag, okay? And there's the Ahoy bag. So the bird bag's quite a bit smaller, but it's not tiny. You know, it's a decent sized bag. So somebody said they've got so many machines, you know, that they have to share their time. You know, somebody was interviewing me today. It was actually wonderful. They're doing something with it, obviously. But you know, when I do a project, be it a garment, be it a bag, be whatever it is, be it a quilt, be it piecing, you know, I think to myself, which machine will give me the best result, the sewing machine or the serger? Now, if it's seriously curved, tight curves, I think to myself, it's easier on the sewing machine. If it's something that I want a straight line, or it's something on the bias, or I want to do something quick, then I will use the serger. And the overriding choice for me is the serger has 2 sets of feed dogs. That's such a big deal. And the sewing machine just has that one set that pull the fabric into the machine. But the serger cover stitch machine has a set that feeds it in and feeds it out. And that to me is such a big deal. And I always say the first sewing machine company that comes out with the Serger differential feed will be brilliant. Probably can't be done, but you know, nothing cannot be done. Nothing cannot be done. Right. Oh, show this. Here is the bird bag. Okay. This is the bird bag. It's just a fun sew. Right. Do you have a video showing how to attach your waistband to yoga pants? Yes, I do. Look on my YouTube. It's on there. It's on there. It's called Attaching Elastic Waistband, something like that. It'll come up. And I think most of my videos are under Deborah Canham. I don't know how I managed to do that, but they are. Okay, so I think that's all for this week. I'm not entirely sure about next Monday because I'm out all weekend and I will have just got back and I'm always struggling to catch up. But if not, it'll be the following week and I will be doing the L890. Now, whether I do that next, I don't know for sure, but or I might do the Euphoria. See which comes up first. Hello from Western Australia. Great. Well, listen, thank you very much for watching. If you're somebody coming in to watch the recording, thank you for doing that. And I hope to see you, if not next week, the week after. But I will confirm it in my group as to whether I'm doing it. Okay, good night, everyone. Have a great, great week.